everyone, welcome. I'm Steffie. I'm a body, mind and emotional therapist from Belgium at espavo.net, where we help people reach their authentic self. Today I want to tell you about our project, the School for Integrated Consciousness, what we do there and how it started. In 2014, in a desperate attempt to find some meaning for my life and trying to break a negative spiral, I received a message from a voice in my head. This message told me that there was a plan. Now, this was something totally new for me. I had never experienced a voice like this in my head before, nonetheless giving me clear messages. Usually I was the person who would see patterns, follow signs, but a voice that was like really new. But I was okay with it, it felt right. And so I tried to remember this plan this voice told me about for weeks, but I couldn't. And so I felt the desperation coming again. I could feel myself moving into the negative spiral again. So I sat myself back down and I told the voice I couldn't remember it. And then the voice said, if you can't remember it, someone else can. And again, weirdly, suddenly, I was reassured by it. It was very out of character for me, but I was fine with it. And the next day, I opened my Facebook, and there it is, an article about Matthias Di Stefano. It just appeared. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't Googling it. It just appeared. So I started following his journey. I started studying everything I could find in English because I wanted to learn more about this Atertunti plan that he was talking about and what my role could possibly be in it. It wasn't easy at the time because everything was in Spanish, but luckily there were a bunch of volunteers who always kept the IM Facebook page up to date with English translations of what Matthias was posting and doing and saying. So that made it a lot easier for me to follow. So a big thank you to them because they helped me a lot. And then in 2016, I was able to join Matthias in the Ecaron journey to the Canary Islands. The message of this journey, or the purpose of this journey, was to open the Atlantean Cross, which I had no idea what it was or what it meant. I just wanted to do it, that's all I knew. And again, as I stepped on the airplane to fly there, weirdly enough, this out-of-character calm came over me again. And as I arrived at the hotel, I learned that we would be working with 33 people doing this job, making this trip, even though there had been more places available. And the number 33 just kept popping up everywhere the whole time. And one of the patterns that I've always had this weird obsession with is the numbers 369 and their mathematical applications, I'll call it. So my mind was already quite on high alert. And then in the introduction, Matthias explained what the Atlantean Cross was, or otherwise known as the Proticta. He explained that it was a geometry and he started to draw it on a paper board in 2D. And it's this shape that I have been subconsciously obsessed with my whole life. If I see tiles on a floor or on a bathroom wall, my mind obsessively starts tracing this figure without me being able to control it. It's like a super obsessive compulsive behavior of mine. And then he starts explaining how this 2D picture is actually a 3D geometry that exists out of 33 cubes that are represented in the spine by the vertebrae, which is a very important part of what I do as a fascia therapist. And then he says it can also be represented as a 3 main axes, up, down, left, right, and front, back, which is also a very important part of this same therapy. So my mind went a bit in overdrive, and there started to come this very long list of similarities and questions about fascia and fascia therapy and the planetary network and the work that we were doing. And it was like, what is fascia? Fascia is the connective tissue of our body. It forms a web that connects all parts of your body. It forms the grid of your body. And we were working on the planetary grid that connects the whole planet. And the problem with fascia is it has never been recognized as having a function or being an organ, because all of our knowledge comes from dead bodies. But fascia is this living spider web that makes liquidy structures that transports light and that makes sure that our whole body is informed of everything that's happening all the time. It's the biological manifestation of the invisible network that surrounds everything. It's the crossroads between the physical and the energetical. It's what responds first to the energies and the emotions and transmits it to the cells. But you have to look inside of a living person to see it. So nobody knows about it, and so it has like no place in these ancient theories because it wasn't recognized. Every other bodily organ has a counterpart on the earth except for the fascia. And it didn't stop there, because in the therapy a very important aspect is neutrality. Fascia is a neutral tissue. We have to learn as therapists to observe ourselves from that neutrality, to work with the body from that neutrality. And Matthias is always talking about how important it is to work from neutrality. The same goes for things like integration, perception, awareness, the list goes on. And of course, the body-mind energy connection. Like, even though we call it movement instead of energy, it is learning to work with your attention, change your perception in order to be able to work with the movement, feel the body, to increase the awareness. It's all the same thing. And by the end of the Ekaron journey, the voice in my head came back. I had realized that there was a very specific set of exercises in fascia therapy that is designed to bring coherence to the movement of 33, the vertebrae of the spine, in the three main axes. And this voice wanted me to share that with Matthias, telling him that he had to learn this. Now, I was okay with the voice in my head giving me clues and advice. I was not so much okay with it asking me to do these things that I wasn't really comfortable with. And on top of that, I was so severely sleep deprived, I wasn't sure that I wasn't just hallucinating. But it wouldn't shut up, so I told Matthias to just be rid of it. And it was gone after that. But Matthias never took me up on it, and I forgot about it. So until 2017, I think it must have been, when I saw the announcement for the Path of the Dragon. I had no idea what this message had been about before, but in that moment it was like my stomach dropped and this shock of pending doom set in, realizing his spine wouldn't be able to hold it. The spine is our axis. It is the first key. It creates our stability and capacity to absorb and integrate. The fascia is a tissue that reacts to stress, mental, emotional, and physical stress. And it reacts by contracting. So it will start to put pressure on the spine. That's the reason why so many back problems are called aspecific, meaning they cannot see why you are in pain. It's because the pressure created by the fascia. But it doesn't have to manifest as pain per se on a physical level. But the pressure will inhibit the capacity to integrate and absorb and neutralize, causing a vicious cycle, causing you eventually to break down at one or more levels. Now, usually this takes a good while. The body is pretty amazing in compensating. But due to the intense nature of the Path of the Dragon, I was seriously worried. It is literally a trip over the spine of the world, connecting the 33 lakes, working with the Kundalini energy, which is the energy that moves around the spine like a snake. Metaphorically, it's about learning to handle your emotions. Ride the dragon. The dragon is part snake. The legs, the water, the emotions, the energy, the kundalini, it's a lot. So it's not hard to see that this is very intense as a process, both on a physical and an emotional level. And my concerns were just the attempt to walk the path of the dragon had to be stopped halfway through. And it sucked to be so powerless and not be able to do anything to help from where I was at the time. It sucked. But life keeps happening, you have to move on. There were new plans for the I Am project, and again, I forgot about it. The information went dormant again. Until recently, when the change in the 2020 I Am plan was announced. All of a sudden, my whole system started to become restless. I started to feel like I needed to do something, but I didn't know what. And then I heard the new plan, and it was full of 33 and the Protecta and the axis in Egypt. So it all started to come back again, and I was told that I should share it with the network this time. It wasn't even until the days out of time that I actually found out that next year there will be another attempt at the Path of the Dragon. So when I found that out, it all clicked why it would be necessary to work on the axis for a whole year. And it became even more important for me to get all of this out there as an extra support for our spines. So we started the School for Integrated Consciousness as an extra support system for the new and rapidly growing non-Spanish speaking community that is now starting to follow the I Am path, where they can contact us freely if you need to talk or something is happening to you that you don't understand, or you don't understand the piece of information that you found. We're here for you. I know I could have benefited from something like this when I just discovered all this information. And besides that, we focus on helping to upgrade our hardware and software. So we are able to work with the new downloads and information and process them correctly, because so many of us are still running on outdated programs and machines. A lot of the new information gets distorted because of it. This is nobody's fault. We're not wrong for it, but I speak from personal experience. It just happens. If you have had a bad or traumatic experience in your life, as a protection mechanism, you create kind of a filter. And from that point on, everything gets processed through that filter. Now, let's say this filter colors everything blue that goes through it. So if you get some red information and it goes through it, it comes out purple on the other side. This is distortion. And it's one of the reasons, for example, why it is so often so difficult for us to really listen, because of these distortions and the triggers that come with them. And this happens on all levels, the body, the mind, and the emotions. So it is important to become aware of these distortions and these filters and these patterns in our system and learn to replace them with better, healthier ones without distortion. So we will be giving you as much extra tools as we can to support you in doing that and make sure they can be used complementary to the alignments if you need them. So the first one that I will be providing is I will be making a video series about how to make our spine coherent in its movements of all the 33 vertebrae in the three main axes according to the fascia therapy. Now, this is a learning process, so we will have to start with learning the basics of the fascia movements, increase our body awareness, learning to feel our bodies on a deeper level. We will explore some of these unhealthy patterns that have gotten stuck in the hardware of our body and how to change them. We will cover some of the things that have come up in the alignments already on a physical level, For example, the posture of the thorax related to the thymus and how we can work so the inside relaxes and our posture comes back into a natural, healthy state. Because in my experience, working from the inside to the outside works much better than working from the outside to the inside. And, work our way from there to the more advanced exercises for the spine. And if you have any other physical problem that you would like some help with or like to find a new approach for, let us know and I will try to work it in. That's it for now. There will be more, but that's for another time. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to the Fundación for creating this platform and giving us a chance to share. Thank you all so much for being part of the I Am Path. I hope to welcome you all in the School of Integrated Consciousness. Espavo.